Hey, welcome back to my channel, Indie Author Jill, where I read and review indie author books. Today we're looking at Paragon Exordium by Mikel Milwasul. Being an indie author is not an easy thing. You want to write a book? Great. You can go to Amazon KDP, which is where most of us write our books at. And they have a format for if you want to do it pretty much any format you want. You want paperback? Amazon KDP has a template for that. You want to do a hard copy? They can do that. You want to do ebook? They can do that. You want to do an audiobook? That's going to be a little bit of a challenge. Now, Amazon does have a way for you to do an audiobook if you're willing to use Gen AI and you don't care if the entire internet hates you. I am very much against AI. I don't use it for my writing. I don't use it for anything, really. I've said before that I like the idea of AI if it can fold and put away my laundry. I want it to fold and put away my laundry. I want it to do my dishes. I want it to do my housework stuff so that I have time to create. I don't want it to do the creating so I have more time to do the housework. You know, go mow my yard, vacuum the yard, go mow my yard, vacuum the house, do the dishes, do the laundry. Let me handle making art and writing and everything. And yes, I am agreeing with I agree with a lot of the writers about how seemingly unnecessarily difficult writing a blurb can be. I don't like it any more than anybody else does, but I would rather do it than have AI do it. It's not that long of it's literally 3 paragraphs at the most, you know. So I'm very much against AI, and if any time a writer, all of these books, I have gone through them before I wrapped them to see if any of them are available on audiobook, because I do like to listen to audiobooks, and if they have an audiobook on Audible, I will go ahead and grab it. I will usually check to make sure it's not a Gen AI voice or a digital voice. And this one was available on audiobook. It was not a Gen AI voice. But depending on how you feel about their narrator, I would say get the audiobook if you want the audiobook. But the audiobook was a little off-putting. And I understand, because if you're not gonna get Stephen Fry to narrate your book unless you have Stephen Fry money, and most of us indie authors don't have Stephen Fry money, so you're stuck with whatever is available for your budget. Sometimes that's your brother willingly doing it for free because he's on disability and he's got nothing better to do while he's babysitting his grandson. Sometimes it's a friend who will do it for a modest fee. I'm not sure how Mikel knows his audiobook narrator. I've forgotten the name of the audiobook narrator. The narrator. I couldn't remember. I can't remember the name of the narrator at all, but right off the bat, the story starts off with the shattering, and you're seeing this all from a babysitter's point of view. My husband and I on Saturday set out for a road trip, and we decided that, hey, we like to listen to audiobooks during our road trips, and we decided that let's give this a try for an audiobook listen. And if you listen to it at 1 point speed, it is a 24-hour book. And we felt like that was perfect for what we were looking for, because the trip in and of itself is about 9 hours. So we thought, this will be a great listen to, get us on our way. And so we're sitting there, and this trip ended up taking so much longer because we got stuck in a traffic jam. There was several accidents along the way. One that had us basically at a standstill, at a standstill on the interstate, so badly that we were next to a construction zone, and there was a porta potty, and I told my husband, I said, I'll be right back, I'm going to go use the restroom. And he says, okay, I'll be like probably 2 feet up there, a few feet forward when you get done. I did not get out and go use the porta potty. It was a joke, but by the time we were stuck in the traffic, we had gotten to the Irishman, O'Malley or O'Mallory, I don't know his actually name, but while the narrator was good with the voices, like, I wouldn't say he was good with the voices, I would say he's good at he had a range of voices he could do. And when 2 people were speaking at once, he recorded that masterfully to where it did sound like 2 people were speaking at once. But when he got to the Irishman's voice, we were doubled overlapping, and it was a good thing we were stuck in traffic. We were stuck at standstill traffic, because do you understand how hard it might be to drive if you're laughing too hard at this Irishman voice? And that was actually a relief, because the Irish voice came after the basilisk voice. This basilisk apparently can speak, and everybody can hear him. So everybody's a parcel tongue in this story. But it was so creepy. The basilisk voice, it boomed in the truck and made the whole cab vibrate with this every time this thing spoke. So, and most of my take is on the audiobook, because that's where I got most of the story, is from the audiobook. And as I said, I will not attack the author or his work in any of these videos, but I never made that promise to the audiobook narrators, so I'm lumping them in with characters. I will absolutely attack a narrator, especially and I would not say don't get the audiobook necessarily. It's I would definitely get the audiobook if you already have an Audible subscription. But and some people might be a little weary of the audiobook's price, because it's like a $32 audiobook. But again, he had to pay his audiobook narrator, and the audiobook narrator's got to eat too, regardless of how crazy his voices are. But yeah, the most annoying thing about the narration was anytime he did a female voice, he obviously could not do female voices well, because every single female either sounded like a little old lady or a 13-year-old. Whether it was the babysitter, the child she was babysitting, the 20, 30-year-old, some journalist that was, like, every single female had a 13-year-old girl voice, which is due to the limitation of the narrator was male, and his voice was not one, like, I don't think he had much of range for the female voices. He had a lot of range for the male voices, although it was hard to take Stephen seriously, because the voice he gave Stephen, the author describes him as a loud, booming voice, but the And I think that Mikel did a really good job of describing the accents that everybody had, because the author describes the accents and the narrator just took those accents and just cranked them to 11. And so you got this Irish guy that is kind of a thick Irish-Scottish type accent. You got this Australian English accent, and this dude's voice was annoying. Like, we had to turn down the volume because when it got to when the Irish Australian man was speaking, his voice was high pitched and it like kind of grated on the ears. So I would definitely, when you're listening, I would definitely listen like in a car or like on your phone device or something like that. I would not put it like in your ears, especially if Shadowfang is speaking, because like I said, his voice was creepy. Like, he made my skin crawl. That being said, the book itself was, the story itself was enjoyable. And there was a lot of parts, like I said, my husband and I were just rolling, listening to the accents that this guy was putting on and the voices he was given. Cheeky and Breeky were great characters. I still say that Shadowfang was probably my favorite. I wish we could have gotten more of Shadowfang, but I understand why we didn't. But Shadowfang is the basilisk, and Shadowfang basically kicks off the weird that happens after the shattering. So what happens is the sky basically shatters. And if you look up in the sky, like, it looks like cracked glass and everything. And from then on, everything goes weird. None of the cell phones are working. The internet's down. You know. At one point, Peter Blair, one of the main characters, and his right-hand man, Stephen, are discussing whether or not it was a solar flare and what may have caused it. Peter is the leader of a private military group, S&W, and he was gifted a sword, Galvorn, I believe. Yeah, Galvorn. And he was given it to him by a doctor, Dr. Walker, who is a short old lady, literally a little old lady. And when I say a little old lady, I mean old. I'm not talking, okay, she's like 95, 100. I'm talking she is over 10,000 years old. And it's technically the first creature he comes in contact with, but he doesn't realize it. He thinks the basilisk, Shadowfang, is the first weird creature he's come up against. But then when he is reunited with Dr. Walker, he finds out that she's a dwarf. Not a, like, what we consider a dwarf. Like, she is a magic-wielding, ancient, mythological being dwarf. And Cheeky and Breeky eventually enter the picture. They're more dwarves. There's orcs. There are dryads. There are elves. At one point, and it's interesting because it's hard to know whose side anybody is on. And Peter is fairly convinced of knowing who's in his corner, for the most part. He knows Steven's in his corner. He knows Sara Young, the journalist, is in his corner. He knows that Dr. Walker is in his corner. And there are several that, as he comes across them and he gets to know them, he's like, okay, I can... Like, he's got really good instincts of, I can trust this person, I can trust this person's a little sus, this person I definitely do not trust any further than I can throw him. And Peter Blair and his team do their best to establish order after the shattering and to help people kind of get a sense of normalcy. Really and truly, there is no such normalcy after this, because everything is kind of shot to kingdom come. There's violence, there's rampaging, people are confused, people are scared, and Peter him and his crew start to bring order, and people immediately kind of gravitate to them at first because, well, these are military people, they've got this under control, we trust them. But then a council gets established, and when the council gets established, Peter now has him and his faction have another faction that they butt heads with, because the council really wants to have control over Paragon, Georgia. And Peter's not about control. He doesn't want to be controlled, first and foremost. And second of all, he doesn't think people should be controlled. He just wants some kind of sense of community and society in this place. And this place has started to become a kind of a refuge for people. They're getting a lot of refugees coming in, looking for a place to escape to. And being that everybody's cut off from the rest of the world, they don't know, like, he has family, I believe he says he has family in Atlanta, and he doesn't know if his parents are safe. And Sara Young, a journalist that finds that she has magic powers now, her parents are up in New York, and she has no idea if they're safe, or no. And then there's Sean, who has his parents died, and his aunt, he hasn't talked to his aunt in forever, and so he has no idea if she's alive. And they have no way of reaching out to each other to find out if any of their family in other places are alive. So they're just trying to figure out how to make the best of what's going on here, and they're kind of afraid of venturing out because they're like, I have no idea what to expect in the rest of the world. So let's just focus on getting Paragon, Georgia figured out, and then we can kind of ripple out from there. And a lot of it has to do with, like, cleanup, because there's so many bodies all over the place. There were earthquakes and all kinds of different things. There were shootings. Sorry, my nose suddenly just started having a field day with me. But anyway, but yeah, when the sky shatters, there's a loud commotion, there's people rampaging, there's people looting and freaking out. And so it causes a lot of death, and then buildings kind of collapse. Because like I said, there's the cracking, the shattering kind of creates a bit of an earthquake, or the earthquake created the shattering. We're not really sure what exactly happened, but basically buildings started crumbling and new buildings popped up, and people were killed. And so the bodies are being found, and they're just being transported by the truckload to the pits where they're being burned. And there's people that are cataloging them, and they're finding their IDs and everything. So there's a lot of putting things back together before they can even worry about what's going on outside of Paragon, Georgia. And so Peter's biggest thing is trying to make sure everybody is safe and getting things back in order. Sara is running around trying to find useful people that who can do different tasks. And then, like I said, there's the council that the council kind of comes together a little faster than what you would expect, and they're like, okay, we've got a team of people, and we want to take control of the city and do everything. And as a matter of fact, there's a part at the very beginning, at the very end, where is it? It's here in the epilogue. Being a member of the city's council had its perks. Mara liked perks, especially the privacy of her own apartment and all the chaos that was the city and its refugees. More came every day. Most sought Paragon, despite desperate for a safe place to stay. Others looked for work, and still others came simply because they had nowhere to go. They would be safe here, so long as they followed her rules. And that's kind of the council's way of thinking, is you will follow our rules and you will be safe. But if you don't follow our rules, there are going to be serious consequences. And she even says, people don't want to follow. They want to be led without knowing it. Now, I will say, for those of you, there are people that, like, they hate cliffhangers. There's not a big cliffhanger on this one. It ends... There is a good way to do cliffhangers and there's a bad way to do cliffhangers, and this one does a cliffhanger in a good way. And what it does is it ends it in the same way, like it has a solid ending. And then it goes into the epilogue, and the epilogue basically reads like the end scene of an MCU movie. And so it lets you know that there is more, but you leave off satisfied with, okay, this is how it ends. Can't wait for the next one. But you're not feeling cheated. You know, I've seen some books. There was one book that I refused to do a review video on because of how much the cliffhanger ending made it. It was very... It disrespected the reader. The character drowned, and it ends there. And you know that the character can't have died because the next book is coming out and he's in the next book. But it felt like it was a... it broke the trust of the reader. And it's cliffhangers like that that make people say, I'm not reading any of this series until the series is finished because I hate these kind of cliffhangers. This is the kind of cliffhanger you like. This ends a lot like this is easily a standalone book. I expect that the next one, when it comes out, will be a great addition to the series, but it will be a standalone. It can be read as a standalone. Much like the 7-book series by the author who shall not be named. It has a satisfying conclusion without... it has a satisfying conclusion that lets you know there is more coming without making you feel like, okay, now what happened? You know, because you know what happened. This part of the story is finished. And you can leave this book knowing that more is coming, but you haven't felt cheated or disrespected as a reader. It is a what I would say a good cliffhanger, because like I said, it's a very much a Thanos will return type situation, you know. So I would definitely say go ahead and get this book. The link will be in the description below. The second book is not out yet. It is coming. When? I don't know. Mikel Milwasul will let us know. I did reach out to him, and he did correct me on his name. I was pronouncing it Mikel, and it's Michael. It's just spelled differently than Michael, than the traditional spelling of Michael. So it is Michael Milwasul. Paragon Exordium. Like I said, I enjoyed the story. I may go back and read the book as a book by itself without the audiobook because, like I said, the narrator was just wild. And if you want to know what I'm talking about, by all means, go get the audiobook. Like I said, I would recommend doing it through your Audible account, and that way it only costs you $17 instead of $32. But I think that as long as you're not driving while you're listening to it, you're perfectly safe, and it's worth the $32. I mean, it is a thick book. Like, the narrator put in some time to read this thing. So, it's, in my opinion, worth the money that you're going to spend, whether it's the $17 or the $32. So, that being said, that's all I've got for you, and stay tuned for the next video, which will either be let's see, what is today? What is today? Tomorrow is Wednesday. So we don't have tomorrow is Wednesday, so we won't have a live stream. So I'll probably go ahead and do a jar pick, TBR jar pick for the next book, and we'll see if we can we'll open up another book and get going with that and see if we can get another big book. I like big books, but I also like little books, and I'd like to get through the big books, get the big books out of the way so that I have nothing but little books left for the rest of the year. That would be great, but yeah, we'll see if we can get another book, a big book, maybe tomorrow, and I'll put that video out on Wednesday. And until then, that's all I've got for you. And then after that, I guess it'll be if I get another big book, it won't be, I'll probably end up having to do a live stream before I can do another book pool, but or review. So that's all I've got for you this week. I will see you next time, tomorrow on Wednesday, when we do a TBR pool. Until then, I'll see you guys later. Bye.